Oh, man, the Blakey Blakester's coming off a 3-day party in Memphis where he was with his boys and celebrating a birthday party. And he's struggling a little bit. He said that he's not 21 anymore.
I'm good, Bo Bow.
Living the dream, baby.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Living the dream.
So you had a few brewskis?
Yeah, man, we had a good time. Had a good time.
Did you drink that old man drink that you like to drink? Scotch and ginger ale, whatever that garbage is?
No, this was like a throwback to college. A lot of just simple, Miller Lite.
Good. Did you eat any good food?
Yeah.
Or did y'all just cook at the house all weekend?
We cooked burgers and beer brats. So we did Miller Lite beer brats on
That's awesome.
Saturday.
What, did y'all do them on the grill?
On the grill. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Saturday afternoon Saturday all day was awesome. We went to essentially like a Topgolf type place. It wasn't actually Topgolf, but essentially the same thing.
Nice.
Where they have like the tracked driving range, and we played like longest drive and closest to the pin, and just kind of hung out and did all that Saturday, and then went back to the house and fired up the grill, burgers and brats and BP and Flip Cup and Can Jam and all the good games that you play on like tailgate. It was basically like a tailgate,
Beer pong.
Then we went to
beer pong.
Yeah, redneck. Saturday night was redneck night, so that was kind of the party.
Would you go to country music dance?
No, there's not a lot open in Memphis, so it was just at the house. Everybody was dressed up like, teared off blue jean shorts and like some guy was in overalls with no shirt and a cowboy hat and all that kind. Boots and with their jeans tucked in, all the fun stuff.
Oh, that's
yeah, dude.
Interesting.
It was just like a have fun,
So you didn't go like hit a fine dining place.
No. Okay. There's really not a lot going on in Memphis, and we had the first night.
You threw Memphis under the bus. You've already thrown New Orleans under the bus. Now you're going for Memphis.
No, I like Memphis. I meant like
Giddy up, big guy.
With all of the stuff going on right now. It's just
not
not quite
COVID.
Yeah, it's just not quite the same environment.
I'm not even thinking about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when I go to the beach, there's no such thing.
Memphis isn't quite the same way right now.
Yeah, I mean, having gone to Orange Beach, Destin, and 30A over the summer and stuff, I mean, you wouldn't have known that COVID was going on. All right,
yeah,
so
but Memphis,
I get it. Yeah.
Memphis does know
in
that.
Cities,
yeah,
sure,
exactly.
Sure.
So we decided with it being like 9 of us the first night and then 20 the second night, allegedly. No.
Wow.
We decided not to go out.
Does that count the exotic dancers?
Yeah. They were not there.
Yeah.
No, we had a good time, man. It was fun.
Liar!
It was fun. Watched football Saturday.
Okay.
And then I drove home Sunday.
Hey, your Bills Mafia, Buffalo Bills,
Come
advance.
on. Josh Allen, baby.
Okay. And Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers,
and the Bills looked like the better team Saturday.
Okay. And then the Chiefs and the Buccaneers.
Can we shout out Elton
how about
Jenkins?
That? Brady, Mahomes, Rodgers, and Josh Allen.
Yeah.
It's 4 good quarterbacks, man.
And 2 elder statesmen, 2 kind of up-and-coming, the new guys.
Yeah.
But how about Elton Jenkins in that Green Bay line? Aaron Rodgers didn't get touched. No sacks.
He could have been
no
back there
knockdowns.
sipping on a beer and eating a burger and still picking the defense apart.
His jersey was as pristine as the ones you buy
Rams
from like USA Pawn that are signed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
and Aaron
perfectly
Donald was
white.
not Aaron Donald.
No, and Elton Jenkins not only beat him on the line of scrimmage, but then they got in that little tussle. It kind of manhandled him, man.
When you tear cartilage in your ribs, I don't care that you're the freak that he is. If you can't sleep and you can't breathe,
dude, and
what's going to happen when somebody jams that thumb and that palm up in those ribs on that first play?
Yeah.
And you're all of a sudden like, it didn't matter what kind of padding or shot I took.
Yeah.
I'm in knee buckling pain.
You don't think they knew those ribs were hurt too? They were going after that.
Yeah. No question. All right. Well, I'm glad that you had fun with your exotic dancers and that your that the birthday party was a success, evidently. All right, Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. All right, you can go to favorites.com, get a quote in 4 minutes or less. You can work with any of the agents and 82 counties in Mississippi. Farm Bureau Insurance. Call in line 601-707-3750. And we are live in the Bank Plus studio. We recap the weekend a little bit with what happened with the NFL and the playoffs and the fact that the Saints are done and Drew Brees, that was his last game with the New Orleans Saints as he'll head to NBC. And we'll see what all the hats that he wears with NBC Sports. But we want to welcome in our friend Cole Cubelic, SEC Network, Jocks in Birmingham. And Cole joins us on the Miller Lite guest line. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Cole, before I jump into SEC West stuff, just your thoughts on the Saints being eliminated. Brees' career didn't go out the way he wanted, but what an unbelievable run post-2005 in New Orleans for Brees.
No, I don't think there's any doubt. And I think when you also look at the fact that they've been able to rack up the most wins the last 2 years in the NFC and still had to go through the wild card in both of those trips, it's a little surprising. But he really changed the culture, changed the attitude, changed the mindset, the thought process there in New Orleans, and obviously made him a legitimate contender. And I think when you look at all those wins and you think, man, one Super Bowl, part of that's going to be disappointing, I think, when Saints fans look back. I think when you look at the fact that you had won 5 straight against Tampa, had really dominated Tampa in both games in the regular season, and then just had a turnover fest there in the playoffs last night and couldn't find a way to keep from throwing the ball to the opposite team. It's going to be a little disappointing to look back on, but I mean, Drew Brees changed a lot of things for the culture of New Orleans Saints football. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I don't know what we would be talking about when we talked about the Saints the last 5 or 6 years if there was no Drew Brees. So they should always be thankful for that.
Remarkable run for Who Dat Nation and Drew Brees as he wrapped it up last night. Cole Cubelic, SEC Network on the Coors Light guest line. Cole, let's discuss who's coming back quarterback-wise in the Southeastern Conference. To me, it's Matt Corral, number one, and it's not close. Now, we'll see what Bryce Young does at Alabama, but when you see some of the guys that are leaving and maybe some of the guys that are not as good as we thought they were going to be, don't you think this is Matt Corral 1 and could be a pretty big gap between 1 and 2 before we see what happens at Alabama?
I don't think there's any doubt. It's an interesting discussion to even begin to think, all right, who are you throwing up there next? I mean, I'm a guy that had Bo Nix ranked above Mac Jones last year, so I might not be the better person going into the season. So I might not be the best person for this conversation. But we just didn't have really the sample size for Mac Jones and kind of what he could be and sort of what we thought he would be. I will say this. I think Connor Bazelak has the opportunity to be that guy, to be an easy number 2. Now, I think a lot of things are going to have to happen. There's going to be some things around him that need to improve. The system will allow him to be successful, but he has every tool to be a legitimate SEC quarterback. And I think we kind of forget that he was a true freshman last year, going out there doing some of the things that he did, very new to college football. I think Will Rogers will put up good numbers, but am I going to put him in the same category from a talent perspective and an ability perspective as Matt Corral? Probably not. I think Emory Jones at Florida has been waiting for quite some time. I think he has the opportunity to be a legitimate SEC quarterback, but I haven't seen him go out there and do it on an every down basis just yet. So he's another guy that I think I'm kind of waiting on, but I do think he has that opportunity. And I'll be honest with you, Bo, I think it'll probably end up being a transfer. I think there will still be transfers into this conference, and I think there are multiple schools that are going to be looking at the transfer portal to get a quarterback in to compete for their starting job. Worst case scenario, to give them somebody with experience that can be their backup. Mm-hmm. So it's when we kind of thought it was slim pickings last year, it looks like it could be a little bit more slim this year. But and I'll say this, Max Johnson at LSU is going to be great. He's going to be really good. I mean, okay. I almost feel as comfortable putting him in the same category as Bazelak. I've just seen a little bit more from Bazelak. But, I mean, you go back, hell, Ole Miss fans, go watch that LSU game. I mean, guy torched them. He had Keyshawn Boutte had more receiving yards than any game in SEC football history. in that game. Max Johnson was the one throwing in the ball. So now it did feel like it was one route. They couldn't stop the dig, but still.
Right.
I think he's a guy, too, that he's got the bloodlines. He's got better mobility than people think. Good enough arm. He's super accurate. I mean, I can remember going back and watching when they flipped those two right there in the middle of the season, and I was thinking, why are they going with T.J. Finley? The Max Johnson kid's the one that's got it. And so I think he's one that has a bright future as well.
Cole Cubelic, SEC Network on the Out of Bounds show. Interesting. All right, so if Mac Johnson is the guy at LSU, we'll see what A&M does. What do you think do they go out into the transfer market portal? And does Arkansas, because Kendall Briles has got to be thinking, they probably they've got to upgrade there. I wonder who all is going to be in play for a transfer QB, Cole?
Well, I think you start with Auburn, and I think that they will be in play to add a quarterback. And I don't necessarily think that means that Bo Nix is out or anything like that. But I do think that means that there's an understanding that he cannot continue to be the guy that he is, and they're going to be able to win a lot of football games. I also think competition would be something that's very healthy for him.
Right.
I think that's something that you would definitely take a look at. And people think that immediately thinks that I've thrown in the towel on Bo Nix. It's not the case. I think Arkansas probably, if there's a guy out there that they feel like they could go get, would definitely be in that market. I think South Carolina is probably in that market. I think Tennessee has theirs under control now with Hendon Hooker. I think Kentucky's in pretty good shape. You've got Bo Allen and Joey Gatewood. We mentioned Missouri's going to be fine. Georgia's going to be fine. And maybe JT Daniels should have been in that conversation we mentioned earlier. But kind of a guy that we forget about a little bit.
Sure.
But really finished pretty strong, and he's going to have a lot of weapons around him. He should be pretty comfortable. I have no idea what to tell you about Vanderbilt. I liked the young kid last year, and Neal, I think he's got a chance to be pretty good. But I don't know much about the system and what they want their offense to be and where they want to go. But I could see Jimbo, if there's a guy out there that he liked, that he thought, okay, this is somebody with some experience that could come in and help us right now. Possibly, he could take a look there. They lost one quarterback to the portal. Haynes King was a guy that sort of backed up there last year a little bit as a freshman. I know Jimbo's high on him, so he could maybe be next in line. But I think you'll see 2-3 teams go to a guy that would probably be a comfortable starter, maybe not as high of a ceiling as the younger kid they already have, and let them compete and sort of see what happens.
Okay. Cole Cubelic on the Out of Bounds show. So you
almost have to do it these days, Bo. You almost have to add a guy at that position because you just never know when you're going to lose them.
Right.
And I don't mean getting hurt. I mean guys just leaving town. So, it's almost like the Kirby philosophy going into last year where you just kind of stacked them up and like, oh, yeah, we'll take him. Oh, yeah, you come in too. Oh, I know we just signed a 5-star kid, but you come too. It's like when you name your starter, you're probably going to lose 2 of them, so you might as well just rack them up.
True. True. Emory Jones is intriguing to me at Florida. Mullen does a great job with QBs. He didn't look good late, but like you said, he doesn't have a lot of reps. And so I can't wait to see what happens there.
But you look back at that Auburn game last year, I wondered last year if they were going to put Trask back in the game. He looked so good. He came in, he threw a couple darts, he ran the ball one time, picked up a first down, and I'm thinking, man, Trask might not come back in.
Yeah.
So in spot duty over time, he's done some really nice things. But like you said, we've also seen him struggle a little bit. But that's a difficult spot to be in as a quarterback when you're not able to gain a bunch of consistency and rhythm and timing. But I think he's got the ability. I think they have confidence in him. He's been waiting for a while. And we saw that work out this year. We saw a couple of guys stuck around this year, particularly Mac Jones, and say, oh, okay, so if you do wait your turn, maybe it can work out best for you. And maybe that is your best option, is to actually sit and watch for 2 years and then be the guy. And then go out there and put up monster numbers and have a bunch of success.
Mm-hmm. What have you monitored this Tennessee stuff, NCAA investigation? If not, we can move on from it. But they could still ring up Jeremy Pruitt. It looks like they may be trying to let this thing play out and see if they could fire Pruitt with calls, or at least a maybe pay him half or less than half of the buyout, depending on which way this thing goes. Have you monitored any of that?
I don't know. I mean, I've got a sort of a 1,000-foot view of it. I don't know how you can't come to that conclusion when you see the way that they've handled some things internally. And the only way I know really to describe it, Bo, is that there seems to be a very large disconnect between, the actual coaching staff, the actual team, and the administration. They seem to be pulling completely opposite directions. You put a hiring freeze on coaching assistants, you're trying to go recruit. You're trying to build a staff. And I realize that they have obviously moved on from that now, but then you publicly release that there's an investigation. What was it, the day before a game this season?
Yeah.
Like that's fine if like Bo Bounds tweets that out or if Yahoo releases that, but like the school puts that out? Like what are you doing? So to me, there have been a couple of things that have happened that have just made me think this doesn't seem like everybody's, rowing in the same boat. And this doesn't seem like everybody is sort of walking down the same path here. So it's hard not to come to the conclusion that you just laid out when you see the way that some things have been handled. So I hate it for Jeremy because I think I think he knows football as well as anybody in this conference. Obviously, we've seen a lot of guys when they've done some great things, and when they move to that head coaching spot, they get swallowed up pretty quickly. He's a good dude. He's a good guy, and he's a guy that I love covering, talking football with, and being around. But it just doesn't feel like this is going to end well. And I hate it for him. I hate it mostly for the kids that are playing at Tennessee right now, because really what the school's doing is just dragging this out. And, I understand that the Tennessee athletic department is not sitting well financially right now, but what you're doing is making your student athletes pay for you trying to get out of a deal that you don't like anymore.
Right.
And save some money by doing it.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to make it, but it will be interesting to see if we have an opening in February or March, whenever they can find what they need to find, if they can, to make the deal more advantageous on Tennessee's end rather than on Jeremy Pruitt's end. Cole Cubelic, SEC Network, Jackson, Birmingham, on the Miller Lite guest line. Okay, let's talk Sark to Texas. I listened to his interview with Dan Patrick on, I think, Friday. It was really, really good. It looks like he has grown up and maybe figured this thing out. What do you make of Sark to Texas, and do you think that he has a really good opportunity to be really successful?
I think he has a great opportunity to be successful because I think, first off, his offensive mind is just absolutely brilliant. And I think he is at a place where he is going to have every possibility to get the best athletes in the conference. He's already added some good recruiters. I think there are more good recruiters, maybe even great recruiters, are going to be added to his staff soon. And it's funny, Bo, because a lot of people see, you had Najee Harris, you had Devonta Smith, and it's true. They had elite weapons, no doubt. Mac Jones, great quarterback, but Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. But what I tell people is when you watch that offense, and if you see highlights or if a game comes on, a rerun, and you're watching it, just watch Alabama against Ohio State. Watch Alabama against Notre Dame. Watch Alabama in almost any game they play this year. And watch the number of times that an elite football player, the third person on offense to touch the football, is an elite player, and how far the nearest defender is from them. Because oftentimes it's going to be 8 to 10 yards away. And that should never happen. That should never happen for a guy that smashes every receiving record in college football, or a guy that has a chance to come off the board in the first round at tailback. Like it's unacceptable. But he knows how to make those things happen. He's been a head coach before. He gets it. He knows it. And now he's been in a couple places where he's seen behind the scenes how things need to be managed. I don't know if that part of Texas is ever really manageable, and that's always the big headache. That's always the real problem, because people can say what they want about Coach Saban's national championships and recruiting and draft picks. The biggest accomplishment that Nick Saban's ever had at Alabama is Katie barring the door against the boosters and saying, listen, leave me alone. I'll win, and then we can all talk about it after the season for a day or two and then go about your business. Give me the checks when I need them, but go away and let me run this thing. And that's actually happened. That hasn't happened at Auburn. It hasn't happened at Texas. It hasn't happened in a lot of places where we know meddling has been an issue for a long time. So if he can find a way to just navigate it, to just manage it, mitigate it to a certain extent, then I think he can be successful. Now, having said that, I do think he needs some guys around him that can assist him, that can help him a little bit. I think he needs some guys around him that can sort of help him, keep things in between the lines. I think Kyle Flood was a really good start there. I think he is someone that is going to be able to help and mentor a little bit. It's very easy when you leave, that Saban, that daily sort of, I guess, motivation or accountability structure that he has in place to not be able to follow through with that yourself. You can be as hard of a worker as you want, but he holds you to a completely different standard, and it's difficult to hold yourself to that standard. So if he can add a couple of other guys that can act as a mentor to him, that can have an understanding that they can walk in his office and say, hey, we need to try this, we need to do this, hey, stop doing this, let's go do this. I think that will be very important for him. I think his staff is more important from that perspective, from a leadership, a guidance, a consulting, an assistant standpoint, than it is from a calling plays or recruiting standpoint. He just needs guys to make sure everything's heading in the right direction. I tell every coach that every head coach in college needs an FU coach, every single one of them. I've told multiple guys before they've gotten their jobs, who you're going to hire as your FU coach. And they'll look at me like I'm crazy. What are you talking about? Like, well, every guy needs someone in that facility that can walk down there and say, hey, coach, FU, man, that's a bad idea. Don't do that anymore. Hey, we need to stop doing that. Hey, why is this kid still on the team? When you go talk to the media, don't say those things anymore. Stop saying those things. Stop it. And he's not going to get fired because he has your best interest in mind. Not all. The problem with a lot of these head coaches, Bo, is they hadn't been told no in 8 or 2 years. Sure. And so that's why some of them act like children when they don't get their way. And that's why some of them, when things start to go bad, it's complete panic mode because everything's just been on cruise control for so long.
Right. Next time we have you on, I want to jump into the last play caller to win a natty. Was it Jimbo? I mean, we've gone Nick Saban, Dabo, Urban, Ogeron. I may be missing one, but it's interesting that we've been on this run of guys that have an OC and DC that call the plays. And I'm pretty sure Sark is going to continue to call the plays at Texas. I don't know.
I would if I were him. I think he's that good. And it's tough. I mean, we're seeing two guys in Mississippi there that are doing it.
Right.
And even Lane has had a little bit of back and forth in his career when he's been a head coach. But you're right. There's not a lot of guys that can handle it. And it seems like the guys who do try to do it suffer a little bit. I'm not saying suffer to the point where it's going to get them fired, but they suffer a little bit in recruiting or, maintaining their staff or the other side of the ball.
Right.
So it's a very interesting point.
Hey, Cole, appreciate it, man. Have a good week.
Thanks, Bo.
Cole Cubelic, SEC Network, Jocks in Birmingham, an SEC West hit there on quarterbacks returning. Matt Corral, without a doubt, the number one guy. We got some other guys that played well, but Corral by far and away the number one dude returning in the Southeastern Conference. Cole Cubelic joined us on the Miller Lite guest line. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. We will have another beer that we're going to introduce here soon that we're super excited about on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. The show is brought to you by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. Any age, any sport, any injury, they've got you covered at Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center.